Hello, everybody! Holy crap, we decided to switch places. Nah, just happy happenstance of things, how they're working today. Well, welcome to another Sunday Funday, and as you can see, we saw scary stories to tell in the dark.
The jangling man is coming.
I don't know why I said that way. Yeah,
Because you're weird, but I love you.
We've actually both been kind of looking forward to this a little bit throughout the year. And not like, oh my god, so looking forward to it, but it's like, well, it's like, okay, this doesn't look terrible. The trailers look certifiably creepy, though the PG-13 is like, But once I realized, like, oh yeah, this is based on technically a young adult novel in a way, which is a bunch of short stories, all meant to be, of course, horror stories. I was like, okay, I'll forgive some of the PG-13ness that this is going to be.
It still managed to be creepy with that PG-13 rating.
Yeah, if we can get this actually a good thing to say right off the bat, it's like, this is actually a certifiably really creepy film. There is a lot of, like, surprisingly disturbing imagery it's able to do with the PG-13. In fact, it makes...
Don't eat while you're watching this.
Yeah, I
all I
wouldn't.
can say.
Yeah, it makes an impalement scene actually work for PG-13, and makes it kind of just disturbing as hell. It also makes you want to go the whole time. So, real quick to tell you what the plot of this entire story is, because originally I always figured that this was going to be an anthology film in some sort.
Yeah, I kind of thought so too.
Yeah, unfortunately it's not. And that's one of the detriments I would say. I think this almost would have worked better as an anthology. It would have been a little, I think, creepier because, honestly, it's not that the main characters are bad. The main character... Sorry, is bug flying at me? It's not that the main characters are bad in any sense. You have this one young girl, her name is Stella. She is...
Stella!
Stella! Yeah, I do that one. She's actually, I will just say, like, she's adorable throughout the entire thing. Kind of feel for her plight, what there is, which is also something we can get into in terms of a negative. There's also this young kid, he technically is able to sign up for the draft. This takes place in 1968 during Vietnam, and the quick thing I'm going to point out to everybody is like, all right. Yes, Richard Nixon was a bit of a scumbag, to put it nicely. He was also actually really popular. Like, there's some people really kind of talking shit about the fact, oh, Richard Nixon's never going to make it. It's like, Richard Nixon was pretty much well established that he was going to win the election. And if y'all remember, and if you're willing to, actually read into history for 5 seconds, Richard Nixon swept the election by a landslide. He, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of electoral and popular vote, he lost one state or something. It was not even close. Not trying to sit there and praise Richard Nixon. He was a bit of a scummy human being, to put it nicely. But there's a lot of...
Well, I think the filmmakers are trying to draw a bit of a parallel between Nixon and Trump.
Yeah, but even then, there's a lot of these, like, little things. It's like, it's not of the time. Especially since it's 1968. And it's like, that's not how people were. In fact, here's the one thing everybody doesn't remember is the fact that Nixon almost was president over Kennedy. The only reason, really, Kennedy ended up probably getting elected was because of his...
TV.
Yeah, TV, because Richard Nixon looked flops, sweat, and just, because,
JFK was more attractive and younger, and...
He was very calm, and Richard Nixon was a little
I would say he had
fumbling.
more charisma.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just heard him on the radio, Nixon probably would have won, but, TV debate, yeah, it went to JFK.
Yeah. And then JFK caught a bullet. Mm-hmm. Sorry, you loser. Sorry, I don't like JFK. I know plenty of people do. Not going to get into politics.
I was like, just be kill of a dead man.
He's been dead for over 50 years at this point. We're allowed to speak a little bit of ill. But yeah, that kind of was a little bit of but thankfully it's not a pervasive thing.
Yeah, so he just kind of pops up every now and then.
Yeah. Though, again, to touch upon the whole anthologies, there's little short stories that happen throughout the entire original book, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and this is supposed to be some of those stories. And that's the reason why I would have preferred this, I think, as an anthology, even though I didn't hate this movie by any stretch of the imagination. Just, I think some of this, like, just having the characters kind of connected, like, if you'd had the young girl Stella, the one reading off of it, I think would have been interesting. They want to give us a story about her, as well as this other young kid. His name is Ramon. He, like I've already said, he's a draft dodger. And he's a nice kid. He's cool. He's not an asshole in any stretch of the imagination. But, and I also give this movie this much. Actually, he's Hispanic instead of a black guy, which is like, okay, well, at least that kind of makes sense because they don't decide to go the stereotypical, the white people hating the black guys, white people hating the Hispanic guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, all right, well, at least it's something different in terms of the stereotype. But yeah, you have some tropes throughout here. Like, there is the stereotypical jock bully asshole who gets his comeuppance pretty quickly on. Though I will say it's probably more horrific deaths throughout the entire film. Like, it's one of those, like, I was going,
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting little twist. Like, okay, I figured something was going to happen to him, but it's like, okay, the direction they went was like, okay, yeah, that actually is... Yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. There's also the stereotypical doesn't believe anything guy.
Skeptic.
Yeah, there's the comedy guy who ends up getting killed, of course. They all get killed, I would say, in actually somewhat unique ways. Just, like I said, I think it would have helped the story, or the entire story that they ended up telling, with it being a, like I said, anthology. Because Stella and Ramon constantly kind of going back and forth and going through all this. Like, there's supposed to be this thing about the fact they found this young girl's book. Her name is Sarah Bellows, and she found out all this stuff dealing with her family. And
yeah, she haunted this house because...
And she haunts this whole town, sort of, but they didn't explain
Yeah, they
it.
said, like, she was a witch who killed children and would tell them scary stories through the wall.
Yeah.
Or something, and turns out she was trying to expose the fact that her family was the one killing children by poisoning the water.
Yeah, though, it's one of those, like, that would poison more than just the children, y'all. It's not bad. I will give them this much. It's a better story than many other horror films attempt. It's just, it's not interesting. It's not a real grab you by the seat, if anything, and by the end of this entire film, like, at one point, Ramon is getting chased by this, what did he call him? Something he called him the Jingle Man.
Yeah, Jingle Man, Jangle, something like that.
I think it was the Jangle Man. Might be the Jangle. That makes it sounds a little creepier than the Jingle Man. The Jingle Man can. And it's creepy, but it keeps kind of flashing back to show us what's happening with Stella. And again, I like Stella. I like the character.
Yeah, she's kind of transported back to when Sarah was alive.
Yeah, and it's just kind of... It kind of keeps taking attention out of Ramon's thing. Even though it's not like, oh, she's back during that time and now she's suddenly no longer part of it, but just really that they're able to sort of communicate to each other weirdly. And even then, it doesn't always make 100% sense.
Personally, I think it worked with this whole cohesive story to tie together all these little...
Plot threads.
Yeah, these little stories that the book is telling.
I don't think... Yeah, I will agree with that. I do think it does work, but I think it would have worked better with just having an overarching... Like, having Stella just sitting there reading off the stories, you know, and maybe the final one is the one that deals with her. I have pretty much like 4 main stories. And I think that's... Like, if
Well, you know, Ramon had to survive.
Yeah. Well, you could have still had Ramon survive and have Stella's story pretty much, interrupted in a way. Maybe kind of leave it as a cliffhanger if he survived. You know? I don't know. Like I said, it's not that this is bad. There's actually a lot this movie does good. Like, one, that, of course, because Guillermo del Toro is behind it, there is a lot of actual practical effects with the monsters. Because there is monsters. Like, there is a scarecrow guy, which I'm pretty sure it's just CGI, how they made it to where you could see through his stomach and everything.
Yeah, like, you just kind of barely hang on, like, the top half and the bottom half, just kind of...
Yeah. But it's... Fuck me, it was creepy. And then there was this other thing that's in this, like, hospital that is just smiling and it's just creepy. It's
like... Your neck is just...
It looks like Danny DeVito on steroids. It's really
It looks like
freaky.
a fatter, taller version of me.
Nah. It didn't look anything like you. Also, its head was massive. Then there was, the other thing, what was with my toe, or where's my toe?
Oh my god, that was, where's my toe, took my toe,
yeah, it's just so freaky, and it just, the whole time, it just makes your skin crawl. Then there's also this one thing dealing with this one guy's sister and spiders. Not going to say much more than that, or in the fact that Megan was squirming in her seat.
I was like,
yeah.
Like, I thought it was scary. It was just freaking, like, creepy and gross. And it's like, okay, tell me when it's over. Tell me when I can look again. It's like, is it safe? Okay.
Yeah, and I will say that's the thing. This movie does build up terror, but it pays off with all of it. There was, like, maybe one or two jump scares.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, like, there are a couple jump scares, but it actually, like, it built up tension really well, and it's like, okay, let you settle down for a second, and then, boom.
Yeah, and it doesn't do the la 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 la.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, yeah, it does it better than La Llorona, which, it's like, built up tension so much that it's like, okay, well, the moment's done, I'm not scared anymore, just get on with it.
And then once you get the scary about, La Llorona, it's like you don't care, and it's like, oh yeah. But here, I think it just popped it just the right amount.
Yes.
Like, you can tell that Guillermo del Toro did help with some of the maybe editing here and there. It's like, hey, we need to cut this a little bit closer here. Because always there were scenes that just really just freak the fuck out of you and just would then just like grab you and shake the shit out of you. But it never felt like any of the jump scares it did have were, first of all, I love that none of them were those false jump scares. Like, suddenly, loud noise, it's a cat.
Or it's like, oh, you hear a noise in the alley, and it's like, oh, what was that? Is there someone there? Oh.
Then pigeons!
It's like, fuck, like, cat. Or, yeah, like I said, bird or something. It's fun. It's like,
yeah, this doesn't do that. It actually just freaks the fuck out of you is what it does.
Yeah, and there's really just a couple of jump scares. Like, it's not really an over-reliance on it. It's more just
creepy and terrifying imagery.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, I wasn't quite sure how to describe it. But, yeah, it's like just a lot of creepy, like, oh my god.
Yeah, like the whole thing with the spiders, like, you see it coming, but you're seeing it squirming because you're like, oh my god, Jesus.
Yeah, you kind of like see it in the trailers a little, like,
yeah. And it's what it is. But then, like, also, like we've talked about, like, the where's my toe thing, like,
oh god,
technically there is a jump scare, but before that, it's just this creepy, dread, terribleness that just makes you just want to poop your pants. It's just, it is a film that actually does build some good suspense, some good horror. And again, it's a PG-13. It does it well. This reminds me so much of what Poltergeist was able to pull off. Mind you, Poltergeist probably shouldn't have been a PG movie. Or it should have probably been an R, thanks to the guy ripping his own face off. Nightmare. But the rest of the film's like, it's able to pull off a lot of creepiness, a lot of suspense. This movie accomplishes it. And I will say, for the most part, like, I actually cared about the characters, though I saw a lot of the stuff kind of coming.
Yeah, and I will also say, like, as far as language, I don't know about you, but I hardly noticed. I hardly noticed that there wasn't much in the way of like harsh language. Like it just it didn't feel like they were trying to hold back to get that PG-13 rating. It just
There was a few here and there, but to be fair, this is all supposed to be mostly like teenagers. Oldest is 18. Yeah, and that's fine. You don't have to have teenagers saying the F word every 5 seconds. I don't care. None of that's important, but it's like one's like it's.
And I think it didn't really feel too much like they were censoring themselves. It just somehow it felt like natural teenage speech.
Yeah. The other issue I'm going to touch upon, and it's part of the reason why I think this would work better as an anthology. It felt like they wanted there to be a bit of an arc for Stella, because she talks about very early on she's upset because she blames herself for her mother's disappearance, which it doesn't touch on a whole lot. Like, it kind of mentions at one point it's supposed to be a super emotional scene between her and her dad, and
her dad's like, oh, don't blame yourself. That's because of her. I don't know why she left, but it has nothing to do with you. And just trying to show. I was like, it's really kind of a sweet moment. I think
it's sweet, but at the same time, we've not spent any time building upon that, so it kind of comes a little from left field. Like, it would be one thing if, hey, she, was, she kept on with it. Like, it's kind of brought up in one scene, and it's never brought up till then.
Well, to me, it was more just her saying goodbye, just in case something happened to her. Mm-hmm. And letting him know, it's like, okay, I didn't leave you. I would never do that. And it's like, oh, hey, honey, if this is about your mother, just don't worry about it. Like, you're not to blame. And, it's just her saying goodbye, just in case something happens to her. Because these kids, their bodies have not really been, well, technically the jocks, but it's like so unrecognizable, nobody realizes it.
Yeah, nobody can find them. They just disappear in their eyes.
Yeah, and leave behind like very little trace that is like she didn't want her dad to think she just up and left. And
and like I said, it's like I didn't mind that. Just like I said, it felt like we had not enough build up to it for it to be as good of a payoff as it could have been. It's not a bad payoff, it's not as fulfilling as you would want. It's like, okay, well, her arc is now done. I guess there was an arc there. It's not bad, just was, that could have been handled a little bit better. And one thing I will also mention, if I'm going to talk about negative as well with this movie, it takes a little bit to get started. Like, the movie, it's a little on the slow side, to not saying it's like, oh, I need the body count now, but to start the horror, it takes probably, I'd say, about 15, maybe nearly 20 minutes to the movie really begins to start. Though I will forgive that a little bit, because realistically, there's a lot of horror movies, especially classic horror movies, that do that. Like, you're building up character, you're building up this and that, until, hey, now we're getting to the horror and people are going to start dying.
Yeah, it takes a while to introduce Stella and her friends and Ramon and the bully, and to eventually set up okay, it's Halloween night, a lot of mischief, this guy's an asshole, these kids are just...
They're just fed up with it and they're going to fuck with them.
Yeah, and then they all end up at this haunted house because Ramon's new in town. It's like, oh, hey, you want to go see a haunted house? And take them and tell them the story about Sarah Bellows.
Yeah, who's pretty much writer of this. I don't know if that's how it is in the actual... I don't know if Sarah Bellows is the quote-unquote author of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. The in-universe. I don't know. I
don't know either.
I read it when I was in 6th grade, y'all. It's been a few years since then. But yeah, like I said, that's one thing. If people are going to complain, oh, this is a little slow. Yeah, it's a little slow, y'all. But once it ramps up into it, though, it does keep up with it. It never feels like it pauses too long between giving character bits. It never feels like it's way too focused on one particular, pretty much, let's just say it, death over another. It feels like each person gets a chance to shine in the spotlight for a bit before their grisly murder. Oh, and Sorry, this is gonna sound so negative. I'm not trying to, because I actually rather enjoyed this movie. The CGI is kind of eh. It's bad because there is some really good monster effects. Like almost all the monster effects are person, like they're an actual person in a suit or their makeup and stuff like that. Of course, at one point, you can't have the spiders be real spiders. No actress in her right mind's gonna let somebody pour spiders all over her. It's like, not without screaming her head off like it's for real. But, like, the CGI spiders aren't the problem, but, like, there's this, like, creeping shadow thing, and I get it. There's only so much you can do with shadows, but it's like, oh, God, it looks crappy.
Kind of indicating Sarah's presence over these different stories.
Yeah. Though, personally, I would have said, it's like, yeah, you could just have a light trickery effect. You know, just pretty much, like, purposely, like, take the light away. Like, purposely cover up one of your lights you're using to light your scene, obviously. Just a nitpick more than anything. And that's the thing. I fully admit that's a nitpick.
I personally didn't think it was that bad, but it didn't really pop up that much.
Yeah, that is true.
They just a few times here and there, like during the spider scene, just kind of lets Dawn know, like, oh, I'm here.
Honey, I'm home.
I was like, oh, you win this one. I'll get you next time, Gadget.
Next time. Sorry, my claw voice is not working. So, what else is there that you want to say about it? Because I won't give too much away about this movie, because, to be fair, there's a lot you could give away. Though, to be fair, if you are a rather large horror fan, you kind of can see that this movie's going to have one of two endings. So you're going to have a super positive ending or a super happy or super bad ending.
Yeah, I'll say, like, there's also... like you mentioned, some, like, horror movie tropes, like the whole, there's something haunting these main characters, and they dig into the past and say, okay, well, why is this happening, and what can we do to stop it?
Though they do something with one of the tropes. Sorry to interrupt you. In the fact that once the main character, Stella, once she realizes that there is that thing, she immediately is like, fuck it. But it tries to give back the thing that she thinks is what caused it.
Yeah, after the first does, she takes it back to the house, like, okay, here's your book back, and then later shows up in her room, is like, what the...
Yeah, like, she legitimately does the smart thing that any human being would do in that situation. And at that point, it's like, okay, well... even though it's not exactly explained, but that's okay. It's a horror movie. I don't need everything explained to me. But it's one of those like, oh, okay, so they need to do a little bit more than that. Hell, they tried burning the damn thing.
It's like, why won't you burn?
Yeah.
You might all read books.
Actually, plain line. It's like, okay, the movie's actually like, all right, here, these people are not stupid. That's one of the tropes I'm glad they decided to leave well in the past and also, well, near past. And the fact that all these characters are smart, and you actually, like I said, you don't want to see them die a lot of times. One, maybe, but to be fair, they purposely do that. They always gotta have that one character that you're happy to see die. Though, again, like I said, it's in such a horrible way.
Yeah, it's like... it starts almost like... I was about to go... like, I don't know about you, but I'm not gonna have any sympathy for whatever happens to this kid.
Mm-hmm.
I've been leaning over and saying, like... nah, it's like, we'll just watch what happens.
Then once it happens, you're like, oh, God, oh, I don't even think that was right.
Yeah, it made me want to start gagging.
Yeah, me too. I was like,
I think just the noises he was making is like,
yeah.
Oh. It's like, dude, stop, you're gonna make me throw up.
So, yeah, like I said, or like Megan was kind of touching on, it's like there are tropes, but I think it leans in those tropes for a reason. It never feels like whenever it's constantly using the tropes, it feels ignorant. It feels like a movie maker who can't figure out any other way. Lean into the horror tropes. Here, this movie feels like it's purposely using them, but sometimes either turning them completely on their heads or using them in a way that you wouldn't 100% expect.
Yeah, it's a bit of a little twist with how Sarah's story ends up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I will say, when they were listening to that recording of her, and she started predicting that one kid's death,
Mm-hmm.
that was freaking creepy.
I was like, oh, thanks. I'm ready to just, go crawl into a tunnel and die.
Yeah, mind you, like, she was killed, like, 100 years before this movie even takes place.
And it's just predicting the current character that time's death. Because pretty much when she starts talking, it fills out this, like, journal thing.
Yeah, this whole, like, recording, like, what they used for recording back in the day. And she's, like, talking so sweet and innocent, and it's like, oh. It's like, okay, I'll tell you what you want to know. Charlie had it. I was like,
Oh,
that's freaking creepy. Like, yeah.
Well, thanks. I didn't need my skin. Just crawled all the way.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't really lean into tropes, but it kind of like uses some to the betterment of the story, and even kind of like invent some of its own tropes.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. This is
it's innovative.
Yeah, it's not gonna sit there and reinvent the entire wheel, but to be fair, it doesn't need to reinvent the wheel, but it does give you some really nice gadgets to play with.
It's a breath of fresh air into the horror genre, I guess you could say.
Yeah, considering what we've been getting in terms of horror movies, and also considering this is August, we really probably shouldn't be getting any good horror movies, because, fuck us. Mm. we don't get good horror movies anymore, y'all. I don't know why. Hollywood just doesn't like us.
And they want to release them, like, either in the winter, like January or February.
Yeah.
Or they want to release them in the summer. It's like,
why not October?
Is it, why not right to it, like, around Halloween? In fact, the movie actually kind of takes place, like, around Halloween.
Yeah, like, if that's a technical thing I can hit on the studio about, I was like, why didn't you release this around Halloween?
Yeah.
Hell, I don't think there's anything that really comes out around Halloween that, like, that's the bad thing is once it comes around October, like, we're not going to have good horror movies we're going to give y'all. I think we're going to do like we did last year and just watch a few and just give you reviews of those, because what comes out that weekend I think is a fucking action film. And I'm like, the fuck, guys? Can I get a horror movie for my horror movie weekend?
Yeah, it's like, Halloween used to be the time when they would release horror movies, and summer would be the time for, like, the action flicks. Mm-hmm. Now it's like,
well, nowadays October, November are fucking, we need to release the Oscar noms. That's all I say about that. Mm-hmm. Oh, so, anything else you want to say about it? Or you feel good about giving scary movies Tell in the Dark a score? Sorry, there's a lot of S's in there in my brain. I don't know what that is.
It's like one big long...
Yeah.
Breath.
Breathe!
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that I feel I need to add.
So, what do you think about score for scary movies? Scary stories we tell in the dark. Scary movies we tell in the dark. That'll be the rip-off version.
Don't give them ideas.
Oh, Asylum's probably already directed for these shitty, like, direct-to-DVD, cheap. We spent $14 on this films already. I would not put it past them.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's very little bit actually wrong with this movie, and I am not even a big fan of horror films. I mean, I don't mind them when they're done right, but I'm not, like, weird over here. But it's like, I don't mind them when done right. In fact, I even enjoy them. But even still, like, I don't feel comfortable giving this a perfect 10. So I'm going to give it a 9.
I'm going to go a little lower. There is the problems that I have with how the story exactly is put together. I would prefer a bit more of the...
he does have some, like, minor issues, it feels like...
Yeah. But like I said, it's not enough that I can, say, oh, this is the worst thing ever. Or it's like, oh, so happy to have a good movie. Like, I was like, this didn't suck ass. Y'all cannot believe how bad of a past 2 months I've had. I've had 2 good movies since, I think, June. Yeah, so I haven't had a whole lot of good luck, y'all.
Yeah, I think, like, us and the rest of the audience are, like, really getting into this flick. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, certain times just like, ooh! Or just like,
especially you.
Well, I think there were some of the other ladies in the audience that were just like kind of grossed out by a couple things. Like,
But yeah, I would give this probably an 8. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's not the best horror movie that there's ever been. It's not even the best, I think, in the past 10 years. But I still think it's a really damn solid one. It's really good. But when it has its problems, like the fact that it probably really should have been an anthology. You know, probably would have cut down on some of it. And also, it's a little slow to begin with. Those problems just kind of hurt it a little, my ass. Not that this has to be an anthology, because I was expecting an anthology, but more just, I think an anthology would have made...
You think it would have worked better?
Yeah, I think it would have made for a much creepier tale. Like, for instance, if instead of, like, what we ended up with the spiders, if instead you just saw, like, some of them start crawling out and her freaking out, and then you hear people are screaming and all this and that, and just see the lights flickering out, and then the camera slowly goes back in, and you just see her covered in webbing and dead, you know, that would be a lot stronger, and it just cuts to the next story. Instead, we get it's just not as strong. It's not weak, don't get me wrong. It's really good, just use a little bit of punch.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily reinvent the horror genre, but it does. It brings some fresh ideas to the table.
It's at least one that I think people could easily say, oh, this is one of my favorite horror movies of this year. Somebody could say, without people just lambasting them. Well, at least they shouldn't. Now, if somebody were to say, you know, their favorite horror movie was Captive State, I wouldn't blame them there, because it's still a horrible movie. I still fucking know what happened in it.
I would say that was a horror movie?
Technically, I think. Well, but...
Yeah, like just looking over each other.
What's going on in this damn movie? Like I said, we've watched it and it's been nearly 6 months. I still don't know what happens in that movie. We paid 100% attention just to fucking know what's going on. Like, oh, what happened in this
It's like just dropped right in the middle of the story. I was like, I'm so confused. Who the hell is it? Wait, what the hell is going I'm so confused. Huh?
But yeah, with Scary Stories to Tell in Dark, if you've been itching for a horror movie this year and you either did not care about going to see Ari Aster, I can't pronounce his name.
Ad Astra?
Yeah, Ari.
Ari?
Yeah, the guy who did Hereditary, and he also did Midsommar.
Oh.
Yeah, his first name is Ari, A-R-I.
I thought you were talking about the movie Ad Astra.
No, why'd I be talking about Ad Astra?
I thought
The
like
movie hasn't come out.
I don't know.
I was even saying the director. She's pretty, but
You
she's goofy, y'all.
You didn't say director, did you?
Yeah.
Let's rewind the tape. No.
But if you are not so much into him, or if you want to see something else, I think this is a good horror film. It's much better than Escape Room. Escape Room sucked ass. And also, Escape Room's not really a horror movie. It's technically a thriller / torture porn sort of movie.
It's a Saw wannabe.
Yeah. This, I think, is actually really good. This you're going to enjoy. If you're a hardcore horror nut, you're going to enjoy the hell out of it.
Or if you're not,
Yeah, and
you're probably still going to enjoy it.
and if you just want to see a good movie, go see this. This is actually good. It's a lot better than half the year shit's still out in theaters right now.
At the very least, it does tell a good story. A good bunch of little stories, too.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah. Just, don't go see Lion King. Please let that die. Please let it die a horrible death. But hey, we'll be back next week with some good boys and... Oh, God, this movie's probably going to be bad. It's probably going to be really bad, y'all.
It's either going to be freaking hilarious or just... It's like, what did we watch? That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. What the heck?
It is the month of August, and we're due for some really shitty comedies, because last year we got 2 in a row.
This time last year we had Night School, and we had... Oh, what was the movie? Melissa McCarthy and the Muppets.
Happy Place Murder, Happy...
Happy Time Murders, yeah.
Happy Time Murders. Yeah, had them back to back. That was not a fun week. But hey, we'll see y'all next week with Good Boys, and that might blow my brains out between now and then. Till then, we'll see y'all there, so bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.